Hey guys, what's up? You're watching episode number 4 of NoDev to GameDev, and today I'm going to be teaching you all about arrays, which are basically, they take everything you learned about variables to the next level, you know? It's a new sort of data structure, and they're super important, they're freaking sweet. You're going to use them in a lot of future projects to organize and sort of manage how you store the data in your program. So you're going to want to sit down, throw on some headphones, and focus, because this stuff is super important. Yeah, and that's it. So let's just get started. 2 videos ago, we learned how to use variables in our programs to store and manipulate data. And in this video, we're going to be taking variables a step further by looking at a special type of variables called arrays. You can think of arrays as being kind of like a group of variables of the same type that are all connected together under the same name. So we're just going to jump right out of the gate here with a bit of an example, because I feel like that's the best way for you guys to get a real grasp on what arrays are and how we might use them. So our example is going to be an integer array, and we're going to start it just like any other int variable by writing int followed by the name, and then after that name we're going to add these extra little square brackets with a number inside. In our example, that number is going to be 4. What this number signifies is how many slots are going to be in our array, how many different integer variables are going to be stored under this name. And that's basically it. We have our array declared here. It's pretty much done at this point. But for practice, I kind of want to add a few different values into our array just to show you how we would fill it up. So the first thing you got to know, we call slots elements. So when you're storing a value in a slot, that will be an element. And we access each element with its index value. So the first element would have an index value of 0 because it has 0 elements before it. Element 2 has 1 element before it, element 1. So we would give element 2 an index of 1. And then we'd move on and so forth. Element 3 would have a value of 2. Element 4 would have a value of 3, and this is how we assign indexes to each element in our array. And the computer will basically take care of that for you, so you don't actually have to declare any index values. That's just how we're going to be referring to different elements in our array. Getting back into things, we want to assign a value to the first element of our array. So we're going to write the name of our array, followed by some square brackets. Then in those brackets, we're going to write the value 0 because we're referring to the first element. And then we'll have the little assignment operator here, just as we would with any other integer. And then finally followed by the value. And let's just make that something, I don't really care, maybe the number 56. So we're going to assign the value 56 to the first element of our array. So with that done, we can just repeat it for each other element in the array. So the next element, the element at index 1, or our second element, can be 6. The next element, element 3, we can set that to a value of 2. And the fourth and final element at index 3 can have a value of 77. Alright, so our array is declared. We have values to fill it in. Let's try accessing some of these values in a few printf statements. So we're going to write our printf statements just like all the other ones we've written up until this point, where we write printf, some parentheses, and then inside of that we'll do quotation marks, and then to show that we're going to be printing out decimal values, which we've printed out several times before, we're going to write %d and then \n, which, if you'll recall, tells printf to go to the next line, and that'll space things out, make it look a little nicer. After that, now that we have the string that we want to print out, we're going to write a little comma, and then the value that we want to send to printf, which is going to be the name of our array, followed by square brackets, and then the index of the element we want to send out. So in this one, we're going to be sending element 0. So we're going to just write the value 0 in there, and that's basically it. So that's how you essentially access elements in our new array. So now you might be thinking, what if I try to access an element that's outside our range that we've defined? We declared an array of size 4, But what if I try and access the element at index 4? That would be the 5th element, which is outside of our array that we declared. What would happen then? And the answer basically is the computer's going to give you an error. You can't access anything outside your array. You can't assign values outside your array, because this would allow you to assign new values to chunks of memory that you technically shouldn't have access to. Doing anything like that would give you an error, so it's important to remember how big your array is, because you don't want to get any weird, unexpected errors when you go to compile. And in a nutshell, guys, that's basically everything you need to know about arrays. We're not really going to be using them too much in this tutorial, but I figured they were just too important to not include in some form, because in addition to making our basic little game project, I want to give you at least a reasonable understanding of basic programming principles. So I figured I had to include arrays in there somewhere. I guess maybe it's a bit of a waste of time in terms of our game that we're making, but you're definitely going to be using arrays in other projects you're going to be working on in the future when you get into a little more complicated stuff. So this video has been a little bit shorter than most of them. I usually do videos that are like 15 minutes. I think we're at like the 6-minute or so mark. So I'm just going to throw in a little bit of extra stuff. Some of you guys might find this interesting, but basically, if you've ever wondered how strings work, strings are actually being stored inside of arrays. You know, you might recognize the way we declared our character names. Those look a lot like arrays. And the reason for that is because they are arrays. When we were writing our game, we used a few little shortcuts to make it easier to declare the names of our characters and to assign values. But to show you sort of how C works behind the scenes at its lowest level, we're going to manually declare a string. So we're going to start off by writing char, the name of our string, and then brackets, just as we did earlier, except this time we're going to put in the number of elements in our string. So for this, we're going to be writing the word the, just for the sake of our example. So we're going to put in 4 elements. Now you might be thinking, well, wait a second. Doesn't the have 3 letters, T-H-E? And you'd be right, but we need one more element so that C knows the end of the string. Basically, every string, it has the number of letters in it, plus 1 extra for the null character to show the end of the string. The next thing you guys need to know is C doesn't actually store letters. It stores the letters, in this case T-H-E, as numbers. And the way it stores them as numbers is it converts them, every letter, into a number using an ASCII chart. So I'm going to have some ASCII characters written on the screen here, and their associated ASCII number values, but we're only going to need THE. So lowercase t is 116, lowercase h is 104, and lowercase e is 101. So we're just going to go through our array and assign at index 0 the value 116, at index 1 the value 104, and at index 2 the value 101. And then finally at index 3, we're going to assign the value 0, and that's for the null character to show the end of our array. So with our string done, let's try printing it out, just so that I can prove to you that this really will make the word the. Even though it looks kind of strange, this actually gives you the same result as if we had declared and assigned the value the to our variable the same way as we'd done it in the previous tutorials. So what I want you to do is create yet another call to printf, have quotes just as we always do, and in those quotes write %s to show that we're printing out a string, and then \n again to make a new line, and pass our array that we just created to that. If we compile and run, what we're going to see here is that printf has taken in our array. It sees our array, it sees the values that it's holding. It also sees that we want it printing out a string because of the %s. And so it takes in those values, converts the numbers to characters using an ASCII chart, and then prints it out on the screen. So you can see we have right here, the word the is printed. And that is how strings work, guys. So I don't know how many of you were wondering, but if you were wondering, now you know. If you weren't wondering, well, hopefully this has enriched you in some way. Maybe it hasn't. whatever, it's here. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for this video. So if you liked it, please like, subscribe, comment. If you have any questions, you can ask me those in the comment section down below. If you want to see my code, see what I wrote for this, you want to see some examples, you can go on github.com/plumegamedev, and that'll have all the examples for this tutorial and the previous ones all uploaded. Anyway, apart from that, thanks for watching, guys. I really enjoy making these videos, so I'll see you again next time, I guess. Bye.